Everything we know, from people and ants to stars and galaxies to quarks and atoms, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer inside an even bigger universe. Ancient philosophers said that the universe is a dream that we're waiting to wake up from. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. All cultural items, from the dreams of our rodent-like ancestors, to books, to television shows, are merely permutations of the reality we think we live in. Today's age of computers and video games places simulations at the center of our cultural consciousness. A select group of us perform simulations for fun and profit, and we call them games, role-playing and otherwise. We live to run simulations. Join us on the Simulationist Podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Simulationist Podcast. This is the 116th episode iteration of the Simulationist Podcast, and we're recording it on the 23rd of November 2014.
So that means 1 month, 2 days before everyone's going to guilt you into not having the right presents.
Yes, is it too early? It's never too early to talk about Christmas presents.
But that's the thing, is apparently over in the Philippines, as soon as the months start ending with Burr, it's Christmas shopping season.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so, you guys think you got it bad, like, oh yeah, the day after Remembrance Day, the day after Veterans Day, the Christmas decorations go up, everything goes up. No, that begins September 1st. Over in the Philippines. It's that big a thing for them there.
So, folks, that other voice you hear on the other microphone is Ryan Kirkby, as it always is. Hey,
co-host / factoid spewer.
Factoid spewer. And my name is Josh Trelevin. So the Philippines.
It's a big thing with that over there, apparently. Although, apparently, as from what I've been told, is Halloween's starting to become a thing, at least amongst the kids in the more urban areas. They go hit the mall sort of thing. Everyone dresses up. Which is what I like, is I do believe deeply nobody should consider Halloween to be a religious thing. It's like an excuse to give, and get free candy and dress up in something awesome. And I don't think you need to have a religion or like a specific group associated with that. I think that appeals greatly to kids. So if you can dress kids up in funny costumes and send them out and they get some candy coming back, I think everyone around the world should do that.
Yeah, that's pretty universal. Kids love candy all over the world.
And you get to dress up as something fun.
And dressing up, yeah.
That's how cosplayers start, man. Do you realize you got a talent for it? Next thing you know, you're spending $50 a month on little doodads and beads to, put on your barbarian outfit.
I do wonder, like, if kids didn't exist, I guess this is an insane speculation.
Like if you had, like, pod people sort of thing, where we just came, like somebody slits the cocoon and out we
fully formed. If kids didn't exist, I wonder if, like, a whole bunch of our, like, colorful culture, Ukrainian dancing and the, South American, like, with their costumes for, different, whatever.
Carnival.
Yeah, Carnival. I wonder if all of those things just wouldn't exist so much if it weren't for just, appealing to kids.
I think it would be fundamentally different, but it wouldn't be gone, because I do recall that Mardi Gras is very much not kid-friendly, and that still has a lot of colors and a whole lot of beads.
I guess adults like to party, that's true.
I guess without kids, though, for Halloween, instead of handing out candies, you'd be passing out, like, beers. So, you gotta come to this house, man, they're giving away long necks instead of the little fun kid-size little, like aluminum can stuff. Ugh.
Because I've seen, like, do you ever see the Celtic dancing where they dance around swords?
Oh, yeah, that's like, good stuff. That's
like a little tiny girl, like,
Scottish people do, sort of thing. It doesn't have to necessarily be Celtic. But,
Scottish or, there's these little girls doing these amazing Highland dancing, like, over swords, and it's like, it freaks you out because,
one wrong move, and there goes like an artery, man. That was femoral artery, too, man. That was pretty nasty.
I mean, I'm sure the swords are, I don't know if they're dull or if that would be more dangerous.
Purely ceremonial? I think if it's purely ceremonial, then you might want to, just say the greatest risk you really have is getting some of that oil stuff on there, to keep it from getting rusty. It's otherwise so dull, you're not going to expect it to actually be a thing that'll get you.
Yeah, but for some reason, I always picture that sort of the Highland dancing. Yes, there are adults that do it, but I feel like I see a lot more kids doing the Highland dancing.
It is a little bit more impressive the younger the participant.
Yeah, I guess people like to see that. And then there's other kind of knife dances, some more dangerous than others.
I remember the babushka from the Addams Family. They probably had kids dancing that, but they didn't show it. So
I don't remember that.
Oh no! The big dance scene, do the babushka, and then they're like throwing knives back and forth, and like Fester's got to pretend he knows the moves as he's doing the stuff with each other.
No.
Did I get the name wrong? I might have gotten the name wrong.
I mean, I can't remember. I remember at one point she had the boy on a wheel that was like
Wednesday and Pugsley. Yeah. They had a lot of knife play in that series.
But that wasn't the dance.
No, this was Raoul Julia and Christopher Lloyd dancing. And honestly, I mean,
this was when he lost his memory.
Yes, the first one there. Yeah. And they're doing the dance because Fester's back. Hooray! And honestly, I mean, once you've seen Raoul Julia and as Gomez and Christopher Lloyd as Fester doing a wonderful knife dance together, you realize you've paid the appropriate amount of money to see the movie. You watch it and go, yes, this was worth the money. This was a brilliant dance, and two wonderful actors got to do it.
So knife dancing. I'm glad we got there, but perhaps we should move on.
Yes.
What have you been? Do you want to go first? What have you been up to?
All right. Well, this week I've been doing a lot of coding for Dwarf Fortress.
Oh, coding. Okay. Dwarf Fortress.
I started off trying to create a mega beast, something really big, something that might spell the doom to a fortress, and it was going to be a sentient blizzard. But I somehow I don't even realize how I got tracked on the wrong way, but I wound up creating hockey gear, like Jason Voorhees, like hockey masks and, like a jersey you can wear over top of everything else.
Now, hockey gear, is that like fiberglass? Is that what those are?
The
masks?
Wood. Well, that's the thing. It can be wood. In this case, metal, ceramics, leather. You could have it be turtle shells. Although I even made it out of bone. So what you want, you find a Hydra coming in on your fortress. You kill it. You take its 7 heads and you turn them into 7 like hockey masks. And then, or goalie masks is what the proper term for it was.
Okay.
And so that way you have like an entire squad decked out with the same like 7 Hydra heads for their hockey, gear setup. How does that sound, man? That's theme. That's as much a theme as all your jerseys having the same like insignia on them, which is kind of hard to do because it's all at random.
Is there that would be a great mascot, like the Hydras. Imagine that for a.
I would root for a hockey team known as the Hydras, But the thing is, the Hydra's known to have 7 heads, which would be too many men on the ice.
Yeah, you can't. Oh, yeah.
Goalie plus 4 others, right?
Yeah. Either some of the players have extra heads, or maybe it's just a 5-headed beast.
Okay, it'll be a 5-headed.
Whatever.
It'll be the appropriately headed Hydra sort of thing. Yeah. So there we go. There's a nice little point. If you have a little league team that you want to be like, oh yeah, we gotta pick this really nasty, dangerous animal, but everyone keeps picking wolves. You don't have to go like what they did with the juniors over in Calgary with the Hitmen, even though their logo design is pretty rockin'. You'll throw up the horns when you see the Hitmen in there.
Calgary Hitmen. Shout out to the Calgary Hitmen.
Well, that's the thing is their logo's got like kind of like a. Jason Voorhees is big and kind of all bulky and ugly. This is like, I'm ripped underneath this outfit, sort of thing. So, like, potentially 50% less ugly, but you still keep the physical strength going up there, and he's like, got with a nice stick, holding up there.
So their logo is a guy with a goalie mask?
Yeah, and okay. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's holding the stick the other way around, so you get, like, the hook, so it's kind of got, like, a Reaper sort of motif to it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, So I think they've got a nice design, but you don't necessarily need to go with something, because the Hitmen, when they first announced their name, there's a lot of people, and that's not really something you want to, advertise as like your mascot. Hitmen kill people. It's like, so do wolves and bears, and I'm pretty certain, had they existed at the same time as mankind, raptors would have done the same. So, I guess they're as valid as anything, but, go with the Hydra, man. That's a great logo. Or if you're, got like a fictionopolis, and have, like the Metropolis Hydras. I
like the Hydras for the artists, because these artists who draw the hockey team logos, they're always very enthusiastic. They draw like very passionate-looking animals, or whatever. They're like snarling. Or
What's the thing is they have to meet that mix between this looks dangerous and yet this is so easy to reproduce and iconically simplistic that anyone can say, oh, that's this symbol, that's that one there. And you got to be able to get that wonderfully fine line between them, and that's a very good challenge for anyone who appreciates a challenge.
Exactly, and so the guy drawing the Hydra is like, okay, I got to draw 7 heads. Now, do I draw 7 of the exact same head? Because that would look kind of dumb. Or it would be like, oh, that artist doesn't have much imagination. He just drew the same head 7 times.
Well, you could have it go rather than the full body of the Hydra, you could just have all the heads meeting towards in the center. So you could have it, Hydra as in, like the real world Hydra, which is, got radial symmetry, in which case all the heads, just join in the center, and otherwise they're forming
so it's like
circle.
A ring of heads. Yeah, okay, that'd be fine. Because it's hard to fit in the body, and the body's like, I've seen dragon bodies a million times. You don't need another dragon body. But I think the important thing is the 7 heads. But it would be an excellent exercise in creativity for the artist, because he's like, okay, 7 different expressions or 7 different, and they all have to be kind of angry. They all have to be sort of monstrous.
Or you could try and position the heads in such a spot that it works out to where the standard positions are in hockey. So the goalie head would be down at the bottom. You get your forward heads, you get your defense heads.
It'd be a 6-headed, I guess 6-headed Hydra.
Yeah, in which case it's all set up properly there, and that way it's like, this is the proper pattern for how you're supposed to be on the rink, sort of thing, in general, of course. And that indicates is the people who are in the know, they realize I understand what's going on with that Hydra.
Now, is there a better sport for Hydra? Because I'm thinking rugby has sort of a very it's got the scrum where they're sort of all
with their
tied
scrum,
together.
It invokes more of a Heracles type image. So if you're the Hydra, you're almost asking to get beat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you're going up against a bunch of people ready to wrestle and just pillage, and just pummel and just do horrible, just physical brute acts of aggression, you really have more of a Heracles mindset. So in which case, by declaring yourself the Hydras, you're almost asking any other group in the area to declare themselves the Heracles.
Well, that happens with any sport sort of icon.
When it comes to wrestling, is
each
person individual, or can they be part of like a national group? Because you could have the hecatoneries, we're the 100-handed. That way you have a maximum of 50 people.
Of wrestling? WWE wrestling, or
I was thinking
Olympic
proper
wrestling?
Olympic-style wrestling, but maybe the WWE would work better, because you can get the whole group of wrestlers together. We're the 100-handed.
Well, I could picture, because they do sometimes do a wrestling group, a New World Order was one that they've had
several
Corporation
groups.
Was another one.
They had smaller groups like the Natural Disasters. You get 2 of them in there, sort of thing.
Yeah, and tag team teams.
Yeah.
Tag team teams.
Tag teams.
Tag teams.
No, just tag teams.
Tag teams. Team teams.
Tag pairs.
Anyway.
In which case you get too close to tapirs, and they're not a creature anyone really fears.
Yeah. Now we're going off in a different direction.
But yes. So I came up with hockey gear.
Okay.
And I tossed that up, and when I was done, and I realized, I'd come up with a complete set of hockey gear, and I was a little proud of myself. It's the hockey stick is actually a ranged weapon. It fires hockey pucks. So it's basically a copy of the crossbow.
Oh my!
You instead of having bolts, sort of thing, you got a thing of pucks. You throw the puck on the ground, crack, and it's how the visual image is. But officially, it just works. Crossbow bolt. So you have a bolt, you have a crossbow. The bolt fires out of the crossbow. In this case, doesn't describe how you have to put it together. It's just it works that way. So in this case, you throw the puck to the ground, slap shot, bam! You knock someone else's teeth out. It's hockey sport.
Okay, yeah, I guess it's because slings have blunt ammo in them, right?
Although this is one of the only ones. This is the only ranged weapon then in my Dwarf Fortress games now that is a blunt weapon. All the other ones have edged weapons and piercing sort of stuff going on there.
Are there sling bullets in Dwarf Fortress?
No. Wouldn't be that hard to create, but no, they've got blowguns, which are completely useless because dwarves don't make them or their ammo. So even if you have a dwarf in an odd mood, create an artifact blowgun, still no ammunition for it. The best you've got is a really sucky club.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got bows and crossbows.
Okay.
All of it is pointy weapon stuff. So this is a nice blunt weapon sort of thing, so it's kind of like a ranged hammer attack. Hooray!
Well, it's definitely creative. I wouldn't have thought to put that in D&D, but yeah.
I was actually rather proud of the goalie stick I created. It's a shield. Because, well, what does a goalie use his stick for?
Yeah, for blocking.
It's a shield.
Well, among his other pads and everything, but yeah.
In which case, I was rather happy about that. It's just thinking, okay, goalie stick's a little designed differently. It must be a shield. So you can have, like, a person in full proper goalie gear come out, and he's using the thing as a shield.
Yeah, I like that. And, yeah...
and I suppose then I like a battle axe in his other hand, because this is Dwarf Fortress.
Yeah. Well, D&D and stuff has your defender, and it's funny because for some reason they're always like, oh, I have a sword and a shield. But if you're taking that role to its extreme, I'm the guy who sucks up hits.
Dual shield.
Yeah, just have shields. Like, don't attack at all. Let your DPS guy.
But that's a fun thing. In Dwarf Fortress, anything can be used as a weapon, so you can take a shield and bash someone with it.
Yeah, you can do
in which
shield
case, you can just crack someone with a hockey stick. Oh, which, by the way, I made sure hockey sticks did have some like melee things, so you can cross-check someone, or jab them with the butt end, or hook them. So yeah, it's like just reading the combat logs was very appealing for me, because it was like seeing like a shot by shot thing when I had like, okay, I'll give these two dwarves in the testing arena, the hockey gear, and see how it works. I'm quite actually happy with the jerseys, even if I don't like keep anything later on. The jerseys seem to be something I quite like.
Do they not have shirts already?
They have shirts and tunics,
Fortress?
but they always go underneath the armor. I've made it so that jersey isn't over the top sort of thing. It's always worn over.
Okay,
so you can like have your full plate dwarven armor on there, made out of whatever substance you want, and then you put on a jersey over top of that, and all of a sudden, like, I'm a very short Kevin Smith.
It's like a tabard in World of Warcraft.
Yes. Yeah. For some reason, they don't have tabards in Dwarf Fortress, so this is effectively jersey is an old enough term. I think it could still effectively qualify as being pseudo-medieval period, almost appropriate.
I'm actually curious about the etymology of that word, jersey.
I did some lookup on it.
Or did you?
I mean, heck, North Americans are the only people that call it jerseys. For everyone else, it's like a pullover.
But I imagine it's not related to the place either in the United Kingdom,
traditional old Jersey or the New Jersey.
The New Jersey in America.
No, in which case those would be connected through the cow, the Jersey cow.
Yeah. Well, because the Jersey cow comes from Jersey, the place. Is it an island, Jersey?
No, it's a state, dude. It's New Jersey.
No. I mean...
Oh, Old Jersey.
Old Jersey.
Oh.
It's like an island. Or there might be multiple jerseys. I don't know.
Well, that's the fun of the old world. There's multiple everythings everywhere, and it just makes it so wonderfully difficult. Thank you, everybody.
But I know, isn't a jerkin like a shirt?
Yes, sort of thing. They do have several shirts, but nothing to be worn over top of like even your armor. In which case, you've got your cape, cloak sort of stuff going on there, and they did have robes that basically cover everything. But I wanted something that's just like, oh yeah, I can wear a shirt now, over top of my armor. So it's like,
yeah,
I like the visual appeal it had in my mind. So if nothing else on that, I might keep it.
Yeah.
But I did get going back onto the horrible thing. I gave the Sentient Blizzard a nice like undirected like dust flow attack, and that is snow. And so it's like constantly blowing snow out of itself in all directions. Unfortunately, temperatures don't work exactly the same way in Dwarf Fortress as reality. Like, although, mind you, there were some rather weird ones. I remember one version where they... the temperature of fat is set to melt at 65 degrees, and in scorching hot biomes for a while, the rain that fell in the heat of summer was 70 degrees. So dwarves would be outside, I'm picking berries or I'm chopping down trees, and all of a sudden it would rain so hot it would melt the fat on their bodies and they'd be bleeding out, and everyone outside would die. just because of rain. Not even, this is before they had haunted biomes and nasty, like weather, like, it's raining goblin blood everywhere. This was just, it's rain, it's hot, you're fat melted, you're dead. So, I had to, I've decided to attach a syndrome to this snow that's coming off of my guy, and I'm still tweaking it right now to try and create frostbite. I want something that'll cause necrosis in the fingers, the nose, the toes, and otherwise just generally slow or stun, like whoever gets hit by it. Right now it's way too powerful. It kills dragons rather quickly. So I have to figure out a way to make it work a little bit better. But right now it will knock a dwarf over a wall into the water, and I've had dwarves drown just by getting knocked over and falling in. So if you're not prepared for this right now, like even if it was just snow without any syndromes to cause like an imitation of frostbite, it would still be very dangerous. It would like just knock everything around in your fortress. It'd be like a hurricane sort of thing,
well,
which is
cool.
something else I might wind up creating. Is just work it
just
for all
natural event instead of the monster.
Well, I can't make natural events happen yet in the game, so it'd have to be like I called it an incarnate. It's a blizzard incarnate. It's the physical embodiment of
cool.
it.
Yeah.
I want to do one with a glacier where its movement is just like 1 kilometer an hour. But it's so big and so thick it will crush anything that gets in the way.
Your only option is to move.
Your only option is to set up a trap in its area.
Or...
Well, if you dig it down into an area and then collapse a spot on top of it, it's a guaranteed kill. Otherwise, you might just have to try and pick it off, away with it in ranged attacks.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to have some fun with that one. But right now I want to make sure I get the syndrome properly on the Blizzard. Otherwise I'm having a lot of fun coding and then testing stuff out.
Cool. Are there boats in Dwarf Fortress?
No.
Okay.
Although if you put your dwarfs like on a fortress on effectively an island where nobody else can reach it, somehow the other dwarves still find a way to get a caravan over to you once a year.
Okay, so there must be some behind-the-scenes
boat. What's the thing
is
they have the word boat, oar, and paddled in the dwarven language, possibly the other ones as well. But they don't actually have boats, oars, or the ability to paddle anything. It is one of the bloat things for later on. Anything that adds a lot is called a bloat to it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Power goals, bloats, and ideas and concepts like stealing a dragon egg is a thing.
But one other thing, though, you just mentioned, and as if it was nothing, that there is a dwarven language.
Yes, there's languages for dwarves, elves, humans, and goblins.
Are these languages that you could learn or?
Probably to some degree.
Like, did he write down, like the guy who made the game, write down words and create words?
There's text files for the whole thing.
Yeah?
There's a lot of stuff missing. There's been a lot of things I've tried to create for words, and all the untoward stuff is called out. So, like, the nastiest thing the goblins can have is, like, the greater torment of odor. They can't actually say, steaming logs of, feces or anything like that. So it's not a complete language. Nothing like what Tolkien built up.
Mm-hmm.
It's just this word is spelled like this, used as an adjective, applies here. So you could try working it out, but there's only, I think, about 250 characters in there. I'd have to double check on that one. But, yeah, I suppose you could wind up doing it.
Okay. That's just interesting. It's another conlang to add to all of the other conlangs out there.
Well, it's just something to make for, that way, this is a very elven-styled name. This is very goblinish. It has different sounds to it. And then you can get the proper translation. So it's, like so-and-so, like the filth stinker. Or, like the elf could be, so-and-so, like love's leaf. It's a thing. It makes for decent names, fun themes. Like, I had one dwarf who wound up becoming a surgeon, in my fortress, and his surname was Murder Razor. It's like, whoa, this dwarf is so bad. But they don't have a word for. There is no body part technically for it.
Okay.
Yet, you could always mod it in. You can mod bums into the whole darn game.
If you wanted.
There have been people that have modded genitals in. It's not popular. Or even necessary. Right now, all creatures breed versus like spores. Although apparently the next patch will have that fixed. Creatures will actually have to touch in order to potentially breed. So you can't have, like, you can't sequester the husband dwarf, up at the top surface and sequester the wife dwarf down near the magma seas at the bottom, and she can't still get pregnant.
Didn't somebody do like a cartoon of how E.T. turns out that he mates with his finger?
Probably, at least once.
It's probably just a comic or a cartoon I saw, anyways.
In this case, they've got him beat. All they need to do is, be on the map at the same time.
Yeah. Good enough. That's video game love for you.
Well, that's the thing, is apparently from the developer's log, he's adding gelding as an ability. So you can, the body parts aren't there. You'll just say males can be gelded, sort of thing, in the coding. And that way, if you get like a domesticated, like male cow, you can geld it. And, you can keep your which ones you want to breed, which ones you don't want to breed. And it will make it a little easier to test out some of the genetics that they have in this thing. They're having people that try to like breed, like, okay, I'm only going to breed fat cows, like any cow that's not like humongous and all that, well, we'll slaughter that and just doesn't get added to the gene pool. Apparently it works. That's all factored in. But it's rather hard to test because they breed versus spores. So, yeah. Very difficult. For now. It'll get easier. Mm-hmm. Or it'll get weirder. Whichever. But yeah, that was my thing this week, is fun with coding and just trying to find out where is the good point of lethal and too lethal in syndromes.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, heck, if you've seen some of the syndromes for some of the creatures they've already got, like, they can cause necrosis of the brain and the nervous tissue. And yeah! It's just like the concept of, like, because the worst part is that if like, oh no, I got hit and now my nerves are rotting, the dwarven surgeon can come up and then completely remove your rotten nerves and say, hey, we stopped it before it got to the brain, congratulations, you're good to go, and then you can't feel anything. You have no nerves. Well, it's actually been one of the things where I do recall a story about a forgotten beast that had like a blood that was poisonous, and any dwarf that touched it, they lost their skin, their nerves, and their eyes. And they wound up like, oh no, the entire dwarven militia, is infected. But the surgeons were so good, and the doctors were so good, nobody died from it. So you have all these dwarves with no skin, no eyes, and no nerves. They can feel no pain, only anger. And so you just tell them, oh, there's a beast over there. Go find it with your blindness, and they go about hacking stuff up. And they proved to be incredibly efficient, and dangerous because the nerves for sensory stuff was out. It did get changed. If you don't have the nerves to work, your limbs are now dead. So they would have been so many dwarves just forever bedridden, being force-fed and given water until they naturally passed on.
Yeah.
Which is kind of tragic when you think about it. But I try not to think about it too much.
Okay, cool.
I will, however, briefly consider finding a way to harmlessly, shear skin off of dwarves just for added creepiness factor. You can shear things off of things. It's very easy in the coding. You could shear your skull out and still be okay.
Yeah, you can do it in the coding. Sure, you can do anything with coding.
But that's the weird thing. It's just imagine, like, how did the dwarf remove his own skull and be okay with it afterwards? It'll grow back in 3 months. You can shear it again. How are they doing this? And then you just sit back and just think up an answer, and whatever answer you think up, that's correct. Congratulations.
Okay. Yeah.
But no, I mean, that's what I like about the coding in Dwarf Fortress, is it makes me think these weird questions, like, I want to create a sentient blizzard, so I said to myself, what shape is a blizzard? What body does a blizzard have?
Oh, did you go with the little body like you said before, or the whole thing is the body?
I still haven't figured out an answer. I'm going to probably post it up in the forums and see if anyone knows the answer to it, whether or not a smaller creature is harder to hit than a larger creature.
Okay.
I do know a larger creature takes less damage than a smaller one, because, like a weapon that's 10 times your size is probably going to hurt you more than a toothpick, right?
Okay.
So right now it's rather big.
Yeah.
But if it turns out it's harder to hit a small creature, I might go that way. But right now I've made it so that although it's big, it's technically made out of snow and cloud is what I've got. It's the same sort of thing as just like sweat, tears, and other liquids. I just have it as a solid, so it's the cloud moving around. But I had to think to myself, what shape is a cloud compared to human body forms? How many pieces does a cloud have? And in the end, I decided a cloud has one body piece, and it's just the cloud.
Yeah, I mean, the other variable you could say is it has a variable amount, it's a variable amount of lumps, I guess.
And how many lumps would I make for it? How many would it be like a 3-part basic body thing? Where it's a lower body, upper body, head piece. And so I had to actually sit down and think to myself, what shape is a blizzard when compared to a human body form, another human? Because a snake is an armless humanoid with a tail. Just don't add legs, add a tail to it, and that's a snake.
What I would say, I would say a blizzard is even bigger than you have a visual effect, which is sort of in the center, but, a blizzard has to work because it's a whole weather system sort of pushing air in certain directions. So outside of the blizzard, there would be sort of currents of air that are sort of affecting it, but not necessarily considered part of the blizzard. But I suppose if you were making a monster, you would have sort of a huge invisible body, and then the blizzard would be sort of a central section of it. So if you're...
And unfortunately, invisible body parts aren't something you can do quite yet.
I guess not. But yeah, if you wanted to actually somehow defeat a blizzard by swinging a sword at it, you would have to swing and create enough wind to dissipate a whole...
Kind of do some sort of Inuyasha type thing going on. Wind Scar, go!
Yeah, and it's got to be if you just dissipate the sort of the core of the blizzard, the rest of the environment is going to be oh, look, there's a core that needs blizzarding, and it's going to rush the air in there.
So in which case you could create an outer body form sort of thing, and then instead of calling it skin, you would wind up calling that just like the outer edge, the periphery. The internal part could be a proper, effectively gaseous amount. You could call that storm winds, and the center could be called a heart.
Yeah,
the
heart
of
or
the
an
storm,
eye
of the storm, heart of the storm, whatever term you want to use for it, and then just effectively give it some high-end levels of regeneration. You have to do enough damage right away to it to dissipate the entire thing. Yeah. In that case, I kind of like that. I might wind up doing that. They do have... it's effectively a balloon, a living balloon. It's got gas for the inside and skin on the outside. So all I have to do is just take that body form and then rename that and make it all gaseous stuff.
Yeah.
I can dig that. I might have to redesign this as Blizzard because of our wonderful conversation as to how a storm system works as represented by a monster.
I wonder, too, Superman has heat vision and freeze breath, right?
Yes.
So if Superman had to stop a blizzard for some reason, he's I've decided I need to stop this blizzard.
And he's not just flying around it the opposite direction.
Well, I guess that's my question: is what's the best? He has several methods available to him.
What's his most efficient stuff?
He could heat up the blizzard by
I'm going to say that's probably a bad idea. Blizzards start by having so much energy in the system, so if he can't overheat the system really quick, all he's doing is effectively adding fuel to the fire.
Okay, so he could. The other option is he could cool it down.
Especially if he blows in the right direction, he could counteract the winds a decent amount.
Yeah.
Done at the right spots, he could really disrupt it. So if he was to take it as it's going was it counterclockwise here in the northern hemisphere? If he was to face the oncoming wind and then just blow for all he's worth like a big bad wolf as he flies up in the air, sort of thing, he could cause enough counter disturbance to at least knock the whirlwind out of existence, but the storm wouldn't dissipate.
I guess, and the problem is it would still be cold, and if the cold was part of the problem, then the people would get even colder, in the town or whatever.
But you know what? I'm willing to bet people would be okay with a sudden snowstorm as opposed to hurricane. Or, Tornado Alley thing going on.
Yeah,
so
I didn't think what we're talking about, I guess, a hurricane of some kind. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll work with the hurricane sort of thing. So in
Can
which
Superman stop a hurricane?
Yes.
Has that ever happened?
Several times.
Yeah, okay.
Different times each way, but I think the concept of him blowing in a countercurrent as he goes up quick enough to disrupt the airflow, the storm stays around, the temperature doesn't cool down all that much.
Is Superman, has he always had enough power to stop a hurricane, or is that more of a
Silver Age plus? Golden Age, he was still jumping over things.
Yeah, he might not
as opposed
necessarily
to
have that much power at certain Golden Age. Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, his tendency to solve things by punching them was very much a Golden Age thing. He doesn't do that so much anymore, but I mean, one of his first things that he did was break into a corrupt, like a public official's mansion and spank him. Which, I mean, points for kind of, like, awesome style there, Superman. All that power, and all you do is treat him like a little infant by spanking him. You got thoroughly embarrassed. What's he going to do, phone the cops? I got spanked. Kind of embarrassing, man. It's the sort of crime you might be able to get away with.
Well, I mean, if I didn't feel I deserved it, I would...
The dude totally had it coming. I mean, like, he's lucky Superman just didn't throw him in prison and then just, like... I have reasons, keep him in there, officer. Because he's Superman. You're going to say no to him? He just threw a guy in prison.
Yeah, I mean, like, if Superman broke into my house and spanked me, I would report it. I would be like, hey, like, this happened. I mean, I don't expect you to necessarily
I would hit the tabloids.
Charges.
I don't think I'd go to the Daily Planet and report the issue.
But, I mean, there might be another issue of, like, oh, he's corrupt, or he didn't want, some other thing to come out, so that's why he wouldn't report it.
But you know what's the worst part about the Silver Age stuff? Is he could just say, I got controlled by, like, an alien presence or, like, an evil demon, and everyone would just buy it, and no prosecution. That's a thing. That's a thing they get away with then.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they still get away with it now, by and large. Nobody really brings it up afterwards.
So Superman can stop a hurricane or a blizzard or...
And he can stop criminal charges.
Yeah.
I was possessed by an alien intelligence. Another alien intelligence. My alien intelligence is mine. That wasn't possessed.
A different alien. An alien.
A non-Kryptonian alien intelligence possessed me, and...
alien even to aliens.
It was Brainiac. Brainiac was doing it to me, yes. Yes. That's the story.
Right.
Batman will cooperate with me. Won't you, Batman? And then Batman has to say yes. Because, well, like... Otherwise you have to fight Superman. And Batman... I don't think Batman ever really wants to fight Superman. You get all these situations where they have to fight. I think Batman's the least looking forward to it guy. Even though he has all the planning, like, on his Bat computer. He very much doesn't want to.
Are there villains who actually look forward to a battle with Superman?
Yes, many of them, because they believe they can actually kill him. Like, I'm Metallo, I'm powered by kryptonite. All I have to do is expose my energy core to you and then beat you up. The Parasite especially, because touching anything means he absorbs the power. So if he's going to get into a fight with Superman, Superman has to make it a ranged fight, otherwise he is constantly losing power. And the Parasite gains power off of it. So he is definitely looking for a rumble with Superman. And then you got people like Mongol that, like, I'm going to relish beating your jaws, into a fleshy pulp. So, yeah, mostly the crazy people are those who have a lot to gain from hurting Superman.
Okay.
Like, Brainiac doesn't gain much from actually hurting Superman. He just wants the information. He wants to go hit the next place. Oh, that is, by the way, interesting news thing. Coming up, like, for those of you who have hated the new 52 universe, apparently DC Comics is saying, put your money where your mouth is. For 2 months, they're going to be doing old stories from the classic pre-52 world. And all the stuff going on, and what things have been going on since then. So if you like it, purchase that stuff. But the story behind it is, the bottle city of Kandor? Yeah, a nice little city on Krypton. And that's what Brainiac does. He takes a little bit of a planet before he blows everything up and goes elsewhere. Turns out he doesn't just do that with like cities. He does that with entire realities. Anytime he gets a sense that reality is going to, like, reboot or, get overlapped or something, he takes a shard of the previously existing reality and puts it effectively in the equivalent of a bottle city. And so the pre-52 universe, everything that's been going on, is being preserved in, like, one of these, dimensional shards he's got. And so that's how they're getting the story. And if it turns out enough people like it, then DC Comics now has a proper route for letting that establish dominance, whereas the New 52 becomes a crystal shard stored by Brainiac. So if you really hate the New 52, buy some of the classic stories. Get the good classic stories you've been bugging them for years, and have fun with that, man. Prove it. Put your money where your mouth is. Put your dollar where you put your dinner.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
So I guess that's the big news story sort of thing. Is there announced on that one? But yes, that's what I've been doing this week. How about you, Josh?
Probably Minecraft, I guess.
Probably Minecraft. You zoning out sort of thing. It's just hitting a fugue state, just playing and playing.
Well, let me see. Was I working on a shop last time?
Yes. You were talking about how you're going to have the whole thing set up on the honor system too.
Yeah. My Rock and Gem shop. Well, it's completed. It is.
So
a shop.
Did you properly name it Rock and Gem Shop or the Rock and Gem Shop?
Rock and Gem? No, it's. I think the sign says Spaces, like short for Space Food Wine, but or Prospector Spaces, Rock and Gem. That's what it says.
Okay, that's pretty nice.
But yeah, maybe Rocking Gem. But yeah, so it's all set up, and nobody's bought anything yet. So
well, that's okay. So you gotta get some word out.
Also, there's not a lot of stock in there to buy, so I don't really blame them too much. But
that's okay. You gotta build up your inventory, man. It takes a little time, and it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, and well, some of it is like expensive stuff. It's like I'm gonna stock diamonds, and so gotta get mining.
There you go. Just go down to just before the bottom and just do another one of your little wonderful was it bomb shelters?
Yeah. Do some branch mining or even some super fast efficiency 5 efficiency pick and
that stuff was almost creeping me out trying to use that stuff. It's moving too fast.
Have you got up to efficiency 5?
No, I only got up to efficiency 3, and it's I can't stop. I have to make sure I turn at the right time to dig out my quarry. It's too fast for me.
Actually, yeah, I will say that about digging out. If you do a lot of digging caverns for yourself, like I'm going to dig a room to put something in. If you build underground a lot, it makes a difference because when you use an iron pick, for example, your standard iron pick, you put some thought into how big you're going to make the room, and you're like, okay, well, the walls are here, and I'm not going to dig any further than that.
I just want to make a subterranean area for my wheat, so that's going to wind up being a 9 by 9. Do I want to design an area around that? How high up do I want? Where's the lighting going to go? Yeah,
exactly like that. And you get a very defined space, and I actually find it a little more interesting because you have more restriction. Whereas once you start getting into those, faster and faster picks, it's like, I'll just dig out the entire area, and if I don't need certain areas, I'll wall it off or whatever. And it's not as good. It's not as
a little wasteful. Well, in that case, you might like Dwarf Fortress. Everything is designed, got to be done right. Especially if you want to be okay, I'm going to have double air seals on here sort of thing to prevent, creatures coming in. This is where my safety zone is, just in case, a bronze colossus attacks. I can set myself up. I got some food stores here, got this set up here, that going over there. And that's something I like to do every once in a while, in the fortresses, is create a nice little, safety area. It's going to be a little bit hard now that they've got, jumping and climbing as a part, and so you can't just, say, okay, now there's a small pit in between you and me. You can't get in. Haha. But, it'd be nice to, set up the nice, cleaning areas. Okay, I've got a nice, magma pit that'll, prevent anything from getting in properly. And here's my, my proper store zones. Here's the beds in case anyone, and I get enough people in here to make it. And it's very fun to try and set up, how small can I make my self-contained dwarven, a skate pod, I suppose, is a nice way of terming it. Mm-hmm. And so, sometimes I won't even play the game. I'll just sit down and say, okay, if I put this here and I put water down on top of this unpolished stone, I can make that effectively be its own, farming area there. So I've got that covered. Need a room for a still, this much here. If I irrigate this with that, and I can make this grow some trees maybe. And then I just sit down and just theory craft for a while. And there's something nice to be said about proper theory craft. So that, I guess, is why I prefer some of the slower picks and works, in Minecraft. It gives me time to think as I'm getting rid of all these darn hills in the way. So that's my thing. I dig the theory craft.
Cool. Yeah. I'm thinking if I did anything else. I think mainly I just worked on the store. I finished a cabin. Did I mention finishing a cabin? It's just a standard, Minecraft cabin. It's not that
but
interesting.
is it just, like, I chopped down trees, turned them into wood, and then made it up? Or did you actually spend the time to say, okay, these corners here will be with actual, logs instead of, boards?
Well, I did use logs. I did use a lot of logs, but I didn't sort of plan it out. My style for this, my intention for this was to be sort of semi-random and chaotic, and I sort of did logs just sort of, here's a post, and I'll just pick a spot for another post, and then now I'll somehow connect them together, and now I'll somehow put a floor, or maybe like a half floor that connects here, and then I was like, okay, I'll do a deck, but it won't wrap around all the way, but it'll be, so I was happy with it. I think it...
Very nice, very nice.
I try to... I guess that's what I'm trying to do right now, is trying to do this a little bit
give
spontaneous.
Give it more of a natural look
style
to it, as opposed to like this is a prefabricated, house, log cabin Model 4.
Yeah, I think so, and yeah, like that.
Nice. I might want to get a chance to see that then.
Yeah, maybe I'll post this like a screenshot up on the that you can click on in the show notes, or I might send you one or something like that.
Because it's always nice to see trying to work differently. I notice when I play Dwarf Fortress, I have almost like a build design, sort of thing. First thing I do is this. Second thing I do is this. Then I get this here, start going this, and I'm even digging into the earth in the same way time after time. And I'm like,
oh yeah.
I should probably be a little bit different. You can try something else out. Have some more fun in other ways. One day. Right now there's a lot of coding going on for me, so... that, and it keeps releasing update stuff. Like, when I started doing the coding for all my Arctic things, like a couple of weeks ago, it was version 40.15. Now it's 40.18.
Oh, wow. Well, moving forward.
Fixing bugs, clean out bugs here, added more stuff there.
Yeah.
A lot of the modding really takes off when he's in between the design cycles, and it takes like 2 years before the next update comes. And that's when people understand how you play the game. What do I want different? I'll find a mod that does that. Mm-hmm. Whereas right now it's changing, like a little bit. What's new here? What's going on here? What is this? Why are these berries dropping? Oh, the trees drop berries. I understand now. So like I got a fortress, I did a quick test out on, it's currently, the two buildings I have are currently surrounded by macadamia nuts dropping all over the ground, because it's autumn and they drop on the ground and I can harvest them up and I
cool.
make like macadamia wine.
Nice.
I don't know why it's not macadamia hooch, but apparently most fruits, and stuff that comes off trees is converted into a wine.
I want to try a nut wine now.
It does sound like it has good body, doesn't it?
It would probably make you make a face.
Most alcohols make me make a face.
True. Yeah.
This one just but at least has a nutty aftertaste.
Yeah.
I call it peanut brow. It's fermented peanuts.
Mm.
The only downside is there's some people that are allergic to it and it may kill them.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, you can make the same for most alcohol.
So yeah, that's what I think that's about all I've been up to is the Minecraft, and yeah.
But I do know that we have both at least added one more thing to our fictional repertoire.
Oh yes, another simulation, and this time a film.
Movies. Like for instance, it was yesterday I got a chance to see The Ghost and Mr. Chicken, which is a 1965 one.
Uh-huh.
But that connects into the other one that we watched together just before the podcast, which was Madagascar 2, Back to Africa, or Escape to Africa?
Escape to Africa.
Although for Alex, as it turns out, it's Back to Africa. He was there before.
Yeah. So Madagascar is a funny movie.
Movie, interestingly done. And I think there's a lot of points we could take off and work with for topics. But the one thread I noticed that connected me to the earlier one, the Ghost and Mr. Chicken, is a Don Knotts film. And those of you who know Don Knotts know he's a very panicky character, very, very high-strung sort of thing. He's prone to wonderful, I'm frightened, and then run away in a comedic fashion.
His character is Mr. Chicken?
Well, that's what he's called in this one. He's not actually Mr. Chicken in the movie, but he is a very frightful person.
That's a reference to him, or
yes?
Okay,
yes. It's just how they named things back in the day. He's so afraid they call him Mr. Chicken.
Chicken,
sort of thing. But no, he's a man who's very high-strung, who hasn't had much success in life. He wants to be a reporter, but right now all he does is do the typesetting for the local newspaper. And he gets a chance for his own byline if he goes into the murder house that's being, like the murders like 20 years ago tonight. And he's got to spend the night there and, report. Because people said, the ghost of the murderer before he committed suicide, he played the church, not a church organ, but a nice big organ up in, the top floor. And, you can still hear him playing the organ, and there's blood still on the keys. They never got it off. Maybe because no one's really tried to in the last 20 years, so the house went derelict. No one goes to a murder house. It's just not a thing you do.
Okay.
But he managed to find a reason to go in. The guy who was their one reporter in town goaded him on. He was like, I'm taking 2-to-1 odds, that you're not even going to step foot in that house. And still, not a lot of people taking me up on that offer. And, to impress a lady that he likes and to get back at that jerk, he finds the courage to go in and do that, and do the horrible things, go into a haunted... This was technically a break and enter, because he didn't have permission from the owner. Although who the owner was, I think because there was a lien on the bank and there were some issues going on as to who had what for permission. I think only the bank could have sued him, and I don't know, there were some things going on there.
Okay, sure, yeah.
But when I was watching Madagascar 2, it occurs to me, the lion Alex, voiced by Ben Stiller, he's not exactly what you consider a lion's lion. He's a New York, zoo animal. So I think he only recently understood that he needs meat to avoid eating his herbivorous friends, sort of thing. And so when he says he's going to go figure out why the water hole's dried up, what's going on there, he goes and he does that despite the fact he's going off the reserve. Anyone who wants could shoot him and get away with it.
Well, okay, this is what I'll say about Alex the lion, the character from Madagascar.
Yeah.
He never seems to shy away from danger. He never lacks courage. He's not the most skilled at lion-y things, but that's he's no cowardly lion. He definitely, if there's something to do...
Well, I don't know. In the first movie, he panicked pretty bad when he realized he was stuck, in a place without people. He's in the wild, not just, San Diego Zoo wild.
Okay. In this film, I didn't sense that about his character.
He had grown a bit more as a character, I will say that.
Yeah, and he did seem to just, he I don't know if I would even call it courage, because he's just, it's that sort of lion thing where lions don't worry about sort of danger. They just do stuff because lions don't have predators themselves, I guess.
Aside from people, which is why going off the reserve was just a dangerous, stupid, foolhardy thing.
Yeah, but he didn't seem scared about it. He seemed a little bit...
He did survive a plane crash, that was navigated by penguins. I suppose after that, everything else kind of just fades to, it's a lower blip on your, courage radar.
Yeah. So it's funny because there's different characters, they both do things, but some of them have more trepidation before some require more pushing than others.
David Schwimmer's giraffe was definitely a nervous wreck.
There was
kind of his character thing.
Yeah, and the zebra too was similar to the lion in that, when there was something to do, he just kind of did it. He's just kind of has that attitude of, I'm just going to go ahead because it needs to be done, kind of. And, when his friend is going off the reserve, he's like, well, I'm no question about it. I'm following, I'm going with him, helping him out.
You don't have much of a choice.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't seem scared. He didn't do the whole, cartoon shaky thing.
They start getting attacked. Then he's as scared as anyone, but that's because his life's in peril. It's an immediate danger.
Yeah.
Not the perceived danger that stops people from doing anything to begin with.
So there's no sort of trepidation at the threshold. It's just, here we go, we're moving.
But it still was a very, courageous act to go off the reserve, and go find out why is there no water coming in? Why is the water hole dried up?
Yep, I think so. And I think it's interesting that there seems to be a difference in the type of heroes that we're given in film or in our fiction, for example, is that we have sort of the hero who doesn't blink and just goes ahead and does it, and then we also have a hero who sort of has to be pushed or has to be goaded or taunted or just convinced in some way to go, or even just maybe a young person who doesn't realize what's at stake, or doesn't have all the information.
In which case, that's not courage. That's being like foolhardy or just plain uninformed.
I guess so. Yeah.
So, in which case, I think the courage, though, is the big topic for this week, and because I mean, like Don Knotts sort of thing, you would not associate almost any of his characters with the concept of like, I'm a courageous individual. They do it because there's a reason. The concept of the perils of them not doing this thing seems far worse for them.
We also talked about Sleepy Hollow a couple episodes ago, so you can, if you're listening now, you can go back and listen to our Sleepy Hollow.
Wait till we're done this one, then go back.
Yeah.
Let's not have you go through like a bunch of half episodes, because if we reference something from that Sleepy Hollow from a few ones before, you start getting like iteration inception going on, where you just keep going back and back and back.
But that character, also the hero, is sort of has that he's
high
scared,
nervous, yeah.
And at certain points he doesn't want to go ahead and do whatever he has to do, like go investigate or go. And
admittedly, I mean, no one can really blame him. The concept of having to do like an autopsy, sort of thing, or having to like go and see, there's a decapitated body, figure out what's like what the situation is here. That's. I mean, nobody should, oh boy, let's go in and take a look at what's going on here. Let's take a look at the stump and the hole in the head. Oh, it's being cauterized at the cutting wound. It was a very hot weapon that did it. No, nobody should be jumping in there. If they are jumping in there, you got to worry about that person. They are either so big into their profession or so mentally warped, they're worth keeping an eye on. Either way, just keep an eye on that guy who's jumping in so quickly.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, well, I guess that's a third type of character, is the character who jumps in, because we've talked about the character who goes in, like sort of eyes open and knowing the consequences and still, sort of resolved to it. We've talked about the character who was a little bit reluctant and then was sort of convinced or goaded and then does it. And then there's this third character who is a little more brash, just goes in not knowing the consequences.
A fool rushing in where angels fear to tread.
And we can like them too. Like, we don't have those. I mean, yes, they're stupid.
I have seen stuff, like people get really enthused in like the CSI series. Like, oh boy, I'm a forensic investigator, and this is like total forensic stuff. I gotta find every little clue and every little bit. I'm gonna determine everything. I do admire the courage, conviction, and passion in which they work. That said, I don't think anybody should really be like, oh boy, autopsies, let's get the popcorn out. No, that's just a little bit too enthused. You got to take things with a proper amount of respect for what you're doing.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to think if there's an example of a hero who just, I guess the Tick.
Oh yes,
just goes in with eyes shut, kind of just
screaming spoon.
Well, I mean, his eyes aren't literally shut, but he's sort of oblivious to.
He's so oblivious they may as well
Inspector
be shut
Gadget.
Inspector Gadget, I think he works, but he's also got that whole, like, either he truly believes himself to be so grand that nothing can hurt him, or, he's a cyborg up against a bunch of incompetent lackeys. Mm-hmm. Does it matter either way?
I guess it's the whole lion, the lion without a predator, sort of just walking around the world. Like, I don't care, like,
there's no one
what
who
could
can
possibly
stop
hurt me. Yeah.
Like Superman should be in some of the senses, and in some incarnations is. It's like, well, nothing can hurt me. I just don't care. I'll go where I want to go, do what I want to do. Yeah,
and I guess that's what the Tick is, sort of with less sort of awareness of what's... Because Superman could, in theory, hurt people he likes.
Well, like that's the thing. I guess, technically, spoiler, at the end of the Justice League Unlimited series, he makes an announcement that... he's never been at full power because he's living in a world of cardboard. Everything's so fragile for him. He has to be very careful at everything he does. Every punch he throws has to be perfectly measured to make sure he doesn't, like completely obliterate somebody in a splatter of gore.
Yeah, and not just the person he's punching, but if you punch a person hard enough, pieces of them could go supersonic and launch into other people.
And there have been times when he's hit hard enough that it causes like a sonic boom of force and shatters windows. People have to get underneath the awning. There's glass falling everywhere.
Yeah.
So he has to be very careful, and so but then he figures out, well, this is dark side. I don't have to worry about that, do I? And so he's able to punch with the actual full force of Superman. Turns out, all this time he's really been about Silver Age almost strength. It's just that he's much more careful about what he uses for his strength because he could really hurt someone if he's not paying perfect attention all the time.
So if we brought this into D&D...
All right. Because it works, like when the concept of courage, it almost works the opposite in D&D.
Well, D&D characters tend to be very courageous because the players are like, oh, I'm throwing my character up at everything. Like, my characters just go.
We'll face a bunch of minions first, then maybe a lower-end boss, and finally by the dungeon master, a big bad beast, and then we've looted everything, taken everything, and march on to our next adventure.
Yeah. Now, I wonder, is this sort of the player's territory where it's just a matter of role-playing to say, how much convincing does your character need? Is that just entirely up to the players, or is there a role for the DM somehow to make that stepping over the threshold actually mean something?
Well, if the characters, are playing true to, as a character, then they're going to need a reason. So it becomes the DM's role to figure out how to provide that big reason,
Okay.
in which case, I guess, the almost stereotypical, princess being kidnapped by a dragon. Why are you going to fight this dragon? This is like a machine of death, biologically bred. This is a living, siege engine of war. Why are you going there? I'm sure it's got a lot of gold, but you can get the gold other ways. And say, well, it has kidnapped the princess. Well, now you have a reason to go there, and go there soon.
Well, is that a reason to commit suicide? That's sometimes with these missions.
If
it's
the princess is
it's a suicide
beautiful
mission.
enough, apparently yes.
Yeah.
It's to at least try and say you did it, or you could always work out, with the old sort of things. You've all been imprisoned, and the king says, I'll grant amnesty if you go and rescue my daughter from the dragon. Here's your old gear back. Go for it.
Yeah, but there is still the possibility of the players just skipping the kingdom at that point.
Yeah, but they don't get to truly call themselves heroes from that point on.
No, I mean, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about whether you choose to take up the mantle of hero.
Well, I went with the rescue the princess is just a nice standard trope, but there's always some reason to go out and do this sort of stuff.
Well, actually, I mean, rescue the princess is probably one of the more compelling, because your other options are rescue somebody, who's not beautiful, or rescue,
politically well connected,
some treasure, which you can always get treasure somewhere else.
What if the princess was actually a decent level mage? In which case, the party mage is like, hey, not only is she beautiful and all that fun stuff, but you know what I could do? I could get a few spells out of her spell book, and thanks or things. So let's just go do it. And they'll go, okay, we'll do it for our friend, which is the zebra helping out, going along with Alex the lion. Yeah,
well, and that's that's part of motivation. That's part of getting players to that point.
Sometimes the courage is found in helping a friend out. All you need is one person to have the reason to go in, and the others will do it for their comrade.
Actually, that's true. That's a good point. 'Cause even if the calculation doesn't necessarily work out, they still might make that choice just out of loyalty, or just because their friend is going.
I have no deep personal stake in this, but for you, and so for you, I will go in and attempt the suicide mission. I mean, I got a wife and 7 kids back home, so I'm not rescuing the princess for a hand in marriage. But you're single, you should settle down. Come on.
But Ryan, I got to be honest. If you and I, if you were going on a suicide mission, I might not go with you. I mean, as good of a friend as we are,
I'd drive you to the dungeon.
I might not go in. Like we're talking suicide. We're talking literally a mission that could possibly end my life.
99 out of 100 times considered to not come back out.
Yeah, I might not do that for you, and I
would have to say, as of both maybe, father and a husband, I could not do that for you.
Yeah.
Because I have sworn I have sworn vows, to my wife, sort of thing.
Yeah, you gotta.
And I made sure when we decided we were going to go, have a kid, that I was going to be, a proper father. It's not just going to be something I do on the side. It's be a father. This is going to be an integral part of who I am, is to be a good father. And to be a good father kind of usually means being alive. So in this case, I realized I can't go do stupid things. I can't, say, I'll get in a fist fight with this guy because he's really, up in my grill. I have to be the calm person. I have to set the good example, and be a better person, so that my daughter has a role model to come up with. So I couldn't do that for you.
Yeah.
Although were I single or bachelor sort of thing.
Yeah, for your buddies. Actually, well, it is interesting because there are guys guys who are in a lot of ways like us, but in certain ways very different, because there are guys who do serve in like military and wars and stuff, and they will, like, for their buddies, they will literally, like, you know, go on a suicide mission for their friends,
for their squad mates.
That's what they believe in, and yeah, in a lot of ways they're similar to us. In certain ways they're very different because they are willing to do that.
But here's the thing: is as long as everyone's okay with realizing, okay, you've made this decision, this is higher up on your hierarchy of priorities. Mm-hmm. So, like, I have made sure to make it a conscious decision. Being a husband, being a father is right up there near the top of my priority.
Yeah, I like that word.
Yes, that's the word I've just made up now. Priority. Yeah, they're up there. So, as long as everyone's okay with me saying, yeah, this is where I've put it, sort of thing. But I'm, if you're a husband, or you're, like a wife, and a parent, and you just, are going out to fight in whatever is going on in, whatever part of the world where you need to go out to, I am perfectly okay with that. I'm not saying, oh, you're being a bad parent by leaving, sort of thing. No. Mm-hmm. No, someone's got to do these things sometimes, and you know what? If you're okay with that and everything's set up for the whole thing, and everyone's okay with how it's going, I'm fine with that. I'm not going to call you on being like a lesser parent than I am.
Interesting, yeah. I remember there's a movie.
I mean, that's what makes society work, I think, ideally, is that realizing everyone's got a different priority. So long as it's not like drugs up at the top of your priority, I think everyone's okay with the whole thing. That's why some people have issues with others, like, you darn druggies. It's like, well, their priority has drugs at the top. Boy, I am liking this word. It really does roll off the tongue now. I'm going to have to write this down, list of words I've invented.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Well, I remember a movie, I think it was The 300, but it might have been one of these other movies about Greece, or
because there's been a few, actually, yeah.
Yeah, a few of those. But there was a scene where the general is collecting I think it's the 300, because he's eliminating certain men from the, and he says,
yes, you're you've got to so and so too young, you're the only one who can support this one. He's knocking people out of his entourage.
If there's anybody who does have sons, anybody who doesn't have sons, he's sending them back home so that they can have sons. And the guys who have sons can fight with him because they're already assured of their lineage.
Yes, that's right. And there's that one bit about you say, oh, you're a little too young, but he's already got a son, so it's, I guess, okay. And then his father's in there as well. So just for a second, he's got that issue. It's like, well, you've got a son, but he's going in already. Get them both in. They'll have fun together. As father son. It's a bonding thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can definitely understand that system of priority, because, well, that's the Spartan way. That's how they did things. That's what was all codified up.
And I guess, we have a weird society, like weird in terms of new to history. We have a society in which we don't ask the majority of our young people, men and women. We don't ask the majority of us to fight,
mandatory service,
to be willing to fight. Yeah.
Heck, Canada doesn't even have much, if any, of a real record of conscription. That's why you got your American draft dodgers during World War, whatever.
I think
World
we had
War. I think it was also the Vietnam and all those other ones. Is they skipped the border north.
Is that a noise we can wait to stop?
I think it's somebody running hot water. Likely.
That's fine.
And so in which case, that's a wonderful example of difference in priority. Is the American, your conscription, it is your duty to show up and fight to the death if we so ask it, versus, the Canadian is like, well, we won't ask you, but, it would be nice if you could serve in some capacity. Nice. Help out, in which case, collect scrap for the war effort, and really give it your all. If you're not going to go, into, the fighting lines, the least you can do is help support them, right?
Yeah.
And I think the Americans were a little sore on the whole, some of the conscription sort of stuff going on.
Well, yeah, they don't have it anymore.
Well, no, they're not in a full state of war. right now.
I suppose, yeah.
But they could enact conscription at any given point in time should, the appropriate measures,
I mean, isn't America technically always at war? I mean...
They're always, doing something out and about in the world, but it's not like, World War II where it's like everything goes in like 100% geared to war.
Yeah, it's not total war. It's just little... Vietnam they tried to call police action or something like that, and then that didn't work because people are like, hey, you're trying to tell us, pull the wool over our eyes and whatever.
Oh, and then as MASH managed to show us with the whole Korean conflict, you could be a doctor and get conscripted. Hawkeye didn't want to be there. He had very deep pacifistic bents and would try and figure out any way out of there as legitimately possible. Not going for a Section 9 or anything, get himself out because of insanity.
That's weird because, you think of Hawkeye as sort of as a hero, right? He's a
very skilled surgeon. He makes his own booze. And he believes deeply and passionately enough where even when he's supposed to be carrying a sidearm with him, he ain't carrying that gun, and if it is, it ain't loaded.
Yeah, but if he had his choice, if he had been given literally okay, you don't have to do this, he would be like, okay, I'm not doing it.
I will go back home.
He would, I think that's what he would do. So that's interesting. Yeah, a character would literally, if they had the choice to make, they would choose not to do that heroic thing. And I guess there's a question of
how heroic was it? Because the whole conflict.
He did save lives, but was he also sort of supporting a machine that shouldn't have been?
Which is a question they routinely ask. It's like, is he really helping them out if they're, once he patches them up, they send them back into action again?
Yeah.
So they keep coming back, injured time and again. It's the same people again he might encounter. And that becomes a deep issue that he has to, rectify with his own personal beliefs.
Yeah.
But, we can claim that at least he has courage because he's not doing anything to get out. He's not trying to go for a Section 9. He's not doing a disorderly, discharge sort of thing. He's not skipping over to Canada to try and, make his way out. He's just, trying to get out any legitimate way possible, and hopefully if the war ends tomorrow, hey, yay! Mm-hmm. Although, mind you, he was in a personal form of hell, because if I recall correctly, the Korean conflict lasted 2 years, but there were 9 seasons of MASH. So he got put through 4.5 times more war than actually happened there.
Well, unless you can squish, because how many hours of film is that actually? Or hours of footage, I guess.
Well, that's the thing is there was stuff that would take place over the course of many days, sort of thing. Oh no,
True.
They're bombarding back, we have to pull back, sort of thing, or we got to go hide in these caves so that if they're bombing us, it won't collapse, on us and we'll all die, sort of thing. Because that was some of the stuff that happened, Yeah, there's several plots. When Frank went nuts towards the end of his run, some of that stuff took place over weeks. So they did a lot of things. Yeah, I think it still worked out to be them spending more time there than actually existed in the war.
Possibly. You might be able to fit it sort of like a puzzle piece and say, well, this episode overlapped this episode or something like that. And maybe as soon as one episode ends, the next episode begins, sort of, so that yes, the one was 2 weeks long, but the next episode is sort of within the course of a day or two.
They may have had more than appropriate number though of Christmases.
Yeah,
I'd have to check the holiday festivities out, but they may have had
they
more
do a Christmas episode every year.
Yeah, or at least every other year. That still works out to being about 4 Christmases for a 2-year total, so they'd have to have Christmas every 6 months. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'd have to double check how many Christmases, how many whatnots they had. But, even though he was in this bad situation, Hawkeye was still, trying to make the best out of it, and he was fooling around with some of the nurses, sort of thing. So he was trying to make the best of it.
Yeah.
And he was trying to make things livable. So he was in this horrible situation. He still had the courage to not break down, and just declare insanity or I take lesser ways out, sort of thing. He's just waiting for it to all properly come to a conclusion, and hopefully they negotiate a peace treaty tomorrow. That was maybe the source of his courage. Wasn't the alcohol? Wasn't knowing he's patching people up, making them better. The courage came for him from the sense that maybe there'll be a sane enough head on both sides of the negotiating party. They can get a ceasefire and maybe even a peace treaty tomorrow. maybe tomorrow, maybe, and so he kept saying that for apparently 9 seasons, maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, it's funny because people always sell, like, when they're starting up a war, they're like, got to get the people on board, and sort of, hey nation, we're going to war. They say something like, it's a simple operation, in and out, 2 weeks, done by Christmas, or whatever that happens to be. They're always saying that.
Isn't that what they said for World War I when things were starting? We'd be done by Christmas.
I think that's where that. Yeah,
3.5 years later.
Yeah, but maybe those leaders kind of do believe that, but some people do. Some people say, well, sort of like generals will often say, well, realistically we need months, maybe years to, and that's what they said about Afghanistan and
that's what they said
Iraq
about pretty much everything. It's never as easy as anyone predicts. So take whatever they say and multiply it by 2 to 4, depending how pessimistic you want to be.
Yeah, or infinity. I wonder, like sometimes with Afghanistan, it's just. But
what they need is a good, strong national hero to really rally them. They need their version.
A hero.
They need their George Washington to unite their various tribes, like the 13 colonies sort of thing, and really get something going. To solidify themselves, as opposed to just everyone tries to conquer them, but turns out it's too horrible a place.
Yeah, some kind of hero. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Or heroic figure in this case, someone to really, get everyone together under the one banner and, get rid of this, terrorist organization and get rid of this outside governmental influence and really make it their own place, their own way, their terms. So if they're going to have a democracy, it'll be a democracy they decide on and how they want it as opposed to something imposed upon them. Oh, that's what you need, someone to really bring them together as opposed to someone say, we got a plan that should work for you, here you go. There's something that they have to come together and say. I think that's the only way you can really get a working democracy in any long term.
So you need like a super charismatic yet democratic, because they have their share of sort of figureheads, but they're figureheads of terrorist
They tend to be called warlords.
Yeah, they have their warlords and their.
Even if it's a benevolent warlord, Genghis Khan and his descendants, like Kublai Khan, they still managed to do an awful lot of good, through enforcing some very strict laws. But whichever way works, it works, right? So long as it ultimately gets them towards a better goal, a benevolent dictator is just as good for getting that going down that alley as it is to get the democracy-minded, political, Washington-esque figure.
Well, that's
whether you've got a Washington or a Khan, so long as they're pointing you in the same direction.
Except, Genghis Khan.
In which case, I'd be more of a Kublai Khan in this case, with all the wonderful stuff he did.
There was the one guy that just piled up skulls and stuff and just killed, just whole cities full of people. And
compared to some of the other warlords at the time, wasn't that bad. If someone does that now, if someone starts that up in Ohio, that is absolutely catastrophically horrible. Back in its time and era, was not completely unheard of. They did some old stuff for some of the old Chinese dynasties about boiling, skulls to, get them nice and polished of their enemies. That way you say, I remember him. I can remember for his teeth. I know, the lackey's missing those ones. I punched those teeth out. That's why he doesn't have them on the polished skull anymore. No, that was a thing that actually happened. So, like a pile of skulls, and slaughtering a city, not exactly as horrible as he's the only one doing it. It's sad to say, it is a
but
slide rule.
There are people. Right? Is it? Are we going to go in? But there are people right now in Iraq and Syria who are piling up heads and.
But that's what makes it so worse. Is that that's not happening everywhere. We have been able to prove that we can do better than that. We don't have to have a head piling society. We can have a nice peaceful society if everyone's willing to either, band together underneath a certain banner, whatever banner it is, as long as they band together on it,
or some
just
kind of
not
peaceful banner.
Care enough, about the other people to have to say, well, we got to go to war and start chopping heads. So either, rallying or apathy, whichever way gets you, again, going in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Well, and I think also. There's also some outside forces, like if we're talking about Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria, there are also people across the border who tend to meddle from time to time and push this direction, that direction. So there's that too.
But I mean, you look back in history. Vlad the Impaler is known as the Impaler because he impaled lots of people. Most of those people happened to be invading forces, and he needed to send a message like, if you lose, you're not just going to die. I'm going to have fun artistically with your corpse.
Oh, well, I mean,
it sends a message.
As a D&D villain, I enjoy that. Or a D&D or a fictional.
Here's plot twist. Vlad the Impaler he didn't become Dracula the vampire. All those people he impaled, they were vampires. He was sending a message to the vampire people out there that were trying to invade.
So he was a good guy.
Very dark, a good guy.
Yeah.
But that's what he was. He was trying to keep the there's your alternative history you want to write up, man. There's your story idea for now. This week's story idea: alternative interpretation of history. Vlad the Impaler as the vampiric, hero. He stops the vampires from invading. Was he a vampire himself? No, but that's how he stopped them, by staking them. He just happened to be larger than life. So were his stakes.
Okay, all right. Well, how did we get from finding your courage?
You got to have a lot of courage to say staking and impaling people is the right thing to do.
Now, here's another question.
Which is an interesting way of looking at it. Using your courage, having the courage to do this sort of thing, and it turns out to be wrong. That's how a lot of villains get made into villains. They believe what they're doing is right. They have the courage to do this stuff, which just happens to be like, Anakin Skywalker slaughtering everyone in the central, Coruscant Jedi, temple. It's he had the courage to do the right thing. When it turns out it wasn't the right thing after all. That's how you make a villain who thinks they're the hero. Mm-hmm. So, but yes, as you were saying.
D&D, sort of, you go back week after week. And, when we have our TV shows and our films and our story circles, we have this thing of, the hero, discovers something in himself or discovers the motivation. Is like, maybe he's reluctant, and then he's like, oh, wait, no, if somebody talks to him, or, I have to do this because, or, I throw away my old compunctions because they're not worth as much anymore. But in D&D, it's like, okay, I threw away my old compunctions last week, and I faced up against my ultimate fear, and then you come back the next week, and you what is that hero? I guess there's always another challenge.
Well, the thing is, in the process of meeting that challenge, does he backslide somewhere else? Like, you could say, yes, I finally found the courage to show up, and support what I believe is right through force of arms. But by doing so, does he not slowly lose his humanity and become a soulless killing machine? Is there some way he can still, I will raise my sword, to support what I believe, and yet at the same time still say, I am not becoming a soulless, slaughtering, thing that just loots corpses and gets experience points.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know if that works all the time.
Raising one end up is just kind of like having like a block of styrofoam in the water. You raise one end up, the other end starts to sink down a little bit more.
Yeah, so the D&D campaign is sort of the DM always inventing ways for the characters to somehow improve themselves in some area,
or at least try and maintain that balance. Is they're trying to get everything they want without going too far in one end. It's like Rose in Titanic on the piece of was it Flotsam? Jetsam? Which one does the door count as?
Flotsam, I think, because jetsam is when you jet it, you throw it off the ship to lighten the ship before the ship is not actually sinking with jetsam.
Oh.
Flotsam is the ship is sinking and it's just floated off the... Oh. That's how I remember it.
Oh, that's pretty good. I'll have to remember that. I think more people should have been throwing like doors overboard when they realized they didn't have enough, spots for everyone on the lifeboats. But, maybe a little too late, panic situation setting in. But yeah, one of the main reasons she couldn't, get Jack up, that was pretty darn big, though, is that their combined weight would have lowered it too much, or him, and the act of trying to get on would have, unbalanced things, and they both would have fallen off into the frigid Arctic waters. So in which case, sometimes it's all about just trying to get that best balance in the status quo possible.
Yeah, well, yeah, I can see that as
but
a
not
way.
so courageous as to be like, I'm a bloodthirsty monster.
I can see that as a way to, maybe have an interesting campaign. However, it also, like, sort of in the world of D&D, I don't necessarily think people are looking for sort of this sort of balancing act. They're looking for a trajectory. They're looking for a character that simply gets better and better over time. And of course, stats-wise, I mean, we're talking role-playing, so that's a little bit different because it's harder to quantify. Stats-wise, they do get better. They, every number sort of increases with level.
Tougher, stronger, smarter,
wiser,
if you,
agile. In some editions, if you gain an age category, you might lose physical stats.
Which is not the case in 5th edition, as it turns out.
I've looked. They don't have that in 5th edition.
Which is good, because there was always those jokes about, how your mental stats improve. So that means as you get old, your eyesight and your hearing gets better.
Yeah.
Because that's, like, those are the stats upon which those abilities are connected to. It's weird. And yet still kind of hilariously funny.
Okay.
C'est la vie. But,
the upward... I don't know if that makes sense, but... I don't know if that makes sense. The upward trajectory, you want your character always improving, sort of, not necessarily, and not what you're saying, this sliding back, I don't really...
In some other areas, where they're excelling in one, it becomes like a min-maxing. They maximize their courageous potential, they minimize their soul, in this case.
Yeah, but are there adventures where you can reclaim your humanities?
You can start by not slaughtering every one of the kobolds that's not attacking you. Just don't attack the whole village, man. Just only get the warring raided parties.
Yeah, okay.
Teach them just enough of a lesson to make them stop attacking. Don't actually take it to their place and, commit, like koboldic genocide.
Now, you can, I suppose you can do that as a player because you're deciding whether the character takes that action. As a DM, I feel like there's not a lot you can do except present the scenario. Say, here's a warren of kobolds. What do you do with it?
Well, you can say, as you're venturing past the area, or you're with the guard caravan sort of thing. As they're chatting about, we've been plagued by kobold attacks lately because we're all first level and the kobolds are actually nasty to us. And so what do the players want to do? Like, they technically have no stake in it, so that inspiration that breeds the courage might not be there unless there's kobolds killed my family, salted the field so nothing will ever grow. I hate them all. I must kill them.
Yeah, but the motivation typically tends to be, the kobolds might have treasure, and we can get a cut.
Welcome to D&D. That's kind of how it goes. It's like, I see we're playing in 2nd edition rules, and it says kobolds have gems on them, gems of random value, which might go up into the thousands of gold pieces apiece. We just have to slaughter enough of them to hit that random chance. Hitting it in. Kill a bunch of kobolds, boys. Which gets down to the really creepy ends of D&D. Like, when is too much? For killing sort of thing. Because it's a humanoid creature, too. It's a kobold, so it's like some sort of yapping lizard dog person, but still a person kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you're attacking... Let's say, was it mobile mushrooms that are, trying to find all the flesh they need for mulch, in which case, people and animals, they're all just, potential, mulch resources, haha. Do you feel as guilty slaughtering, like a giant mobile mushroom of questionable sentience?
What if, could you have hybrid, kobold humans or something like that? That might tug on the heartstrings a little bit more if there was...
It does open up a few questions as to, how did that one come about?
Well, no more than a half orcs or half elves or half dragons.
To some degree, but in this case, because of a lack of general magic ability in either one, you have a size discrepancy going on, as well as the fact that I do believe kobolds are reptilian, so therefore they lay eggs, so there's some basic biological compatibility issues.
I don't know why you would assume that just they're reptilian, therefore they lay eggs. Maybe they're...
because it states they lay eggs in the Monster Manual for 3rd edition.
Oh, Monster Manual says that?
As well as Races of the Dragon, they're an egg-laying race.
Okay, well, in that case, yeah, they do.
Which, dragons lay eggs too, but they're such a magical species that can be overlooked. It's like, oh yes, I was human at the point of, the whole system happening, and then I turned back into a dragon, and then I laid an egg. That's where the half-dragon came from.
Well, technically, like, in that case, if you're saying, well, magic is the answer for dragons, then
there's
a wizard...
magical, race.
Yeah, but a wizard could cast alter person or, some kind of spell.
But then you have, like, a very unique story for the half kobolds going on. Yeah. It's like was the wizard just, got everyone drunk and started casting, like, polymorph spells around there? Things got really weird. You should ask the Minotaur about that. He's not a real Minotaur. You don't want to know the answer.
Yeah. Well, anyways, okay. So now that the half kobold is in existence somehow, whether it may be through a magic spell or
we'll say magic booze and just leave it at that.
Now we can have a character who says, who interacts with the PCs and says, okay, my mom's side of the family is all kobolds, so I don't want you to kill them because they're my family. My dad's side of the family is humans, and they're mad at the kobolds. But now you player characters, you have to help me out. And
how are you at subdual damage?
Like subdue my in-laws, or not in-laws, my mom's family.
The matriarchal side of my family. Is there any way we could knock all of my mom's side of the family unconscious and then transport them somewhere far enough away they won't migrate back?
Is that ethical, though? Because that sounds like...
We do it with bears.
Yeah, but these are... Okay, remember, these are technically thinking beings, although I guess they're not as intelligent as
they have a proper intelligence score. They can speak and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So they got that going for them.
Yeah, and our theoretical, like our half-kobold guy... who we'll call Smorgald.
Can we call him Miguel?
Miguel.
Yes, it's like Smeagol, but he's got more. In this case, the kobolds or maybe the humans are like Espanol. He is Miguel.
I didn't want to go with any real world ethnicity, but
come on, just picture a kobold with a nice little, like a sombrero going on there, man. Don't tell me that adds more
kobolds.
to their style. Plus, they got to have a language. You might, a lot of languages are ripped off. Yeah. In which case, that means dragons are because kobolds say that they're descended from dragons. That makes all dragons Espanol as a default thing, and Espanol dragons. Well, that's not bad too.
Okay, yeah, Spanish dragons. Yeah.
That's a lot of personality going on. That's more personality than most dragons have. And I've read Dragonlance. Their personality tends to end with "I eat things" and like to torture things.
What I was trying to bring up, sorry.
So what was the ethical quandary of shipping them off?
Well, Smogald he speaks the language of Smigel. He speaks both the language of his mother and his father, and he's been to family Christmas dinner with his kobold family, and they're a little bit rough around the edges, but they, for some reason, have accepted him as a member of the family.
Well, because he's so much bigger. He's
that's true. He can beat them up. Yeah.
Well, no, he just looks that much more intimidating. He's like having that one cousin that's like super buff and ripped. He's the kind of guy you want, when you're walking in the wrong parts of town. You want him next to you. You want the big guy.
So he's talked with them, and he's shared his hopes and dreams, and they've shared their hopes and dreams. Yes, they're evil aligned, sure.
Evil hopes and evil dreams.
Along with a few neutral hopes and neutral dreams, just mixed in. Just, on the whole, they add up to maybe
darker end of the alignment spectrum.
So technically, he's like, okay, just because they're evil doesn't mean you can just... Because this is, we did this in the United States. We did this, I guess. I don't know if I count as but
the Americans did it.
I believe Canada did some of it too. Is transport people from one location in the country to one state to another, and just say, okay, now you live over here, just because it's inconvenient for you to live near these other settlers. Or, So I don't know.
But you could always make an argument in this case with Smigel that his kobold side, it's a toxic relationship. It's not going to do him any good. He has to separate, sever some ties if he wants to be all he can be, as opposed to just the big guy doing the grunt work for the nasty side of his family.
Well, but what if he feels that maybe he can redeem some of that family? Maybe he can sort of work his
So then it comes from how much should we beat up the kobolds to whether or not we can inspire an insurrection. Which ones are considered these are good and when the revolution comes they shall not be up against the wall. Whereas those who have the dark heart that feeds, and inflames the dark passions of the other ones, they are the ones that must go, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm kind of liking this campaign. It's this weird, dark, but political, and it's got some depth to it already.
All right. Well, I don't know where we got with that. Are we running out of time?
That's the thing, though. Is any which way you make about it to enact upon what your conclusion is, it does take courage on that sort of thing. To say whether or not, I'm sorry, I just can't be with this side of my family. They're like the Black Donnellys. Every last one of them's a horrible criminal at heart. I gotta get away from them. They gotta get away from me. Versus, can you just knock them unconscious repeatedly until they decide not to attack anymore? I mean, that still takes courage. To say, I'm not going to slaughter you. I'm just going to beat you unconscious until you learn a lesson. We shall call this the stick of truth.
I guess this is probably an issue for another episode, but I wonder, about conversion, about alignment conversion, and if it should be more of a goal.
The beat stick of alignment conversion.
Well, not necessarily beat stick, but could you, in theory, be a character who sort of believed in sort of converting evil aligned characters to more of a good outlook, and if it's possible to do that,
some sort of messiah for your people sort of thing?
Because I think I'm one of these people who believes in sort of the Enlightenment or the idea that
it can't always work the other way.
Knowledge.
Warcraft stuff has got Queen Ashara. She effectively led her people down, eventually, literally under the ocean, but she led them down a dark path.
So they could be led into darkness.
And that's the sort of thing with the Drow in a lot of their histories too. So the leader of this race of nobles led them down the dark path, and now they got to spend all their life underneath the earth. So in which case you can work for either alignment way. So it doesn't necessarily need to be just and I shall find a way to have the kobolds realize their true greatness, not just within numbers and mining and all that, but as great intellectual minds, and we shall utilize their technological abilities to revolutionize the world, and people will realize our worth, and they will stop slaughtering us by the dozen because we make clocks for them, and everyone can keep time, and no one's late anymore. Hooray!
So I wonder, I guess I was going to say this is another week's podcast, but just really quickly, could you assign a role or a diplomacy role or a convincing role to? It might be a long-term check to convince another person that their alignment they should. Well,
provided they're not another PC, you can never do that. Apparently.
Yeah.
In most editions, it almost explicitly states you cannot.
Yeah, the player has control over that.
Yeah. I suppose you could make it a check, sort of thing, and you're allowed to recheck every time you've proven a good example of, why you are in the right for trying to get the person to be of that alignment, sort of thing. And I guess, +1 for every previous, experience that you've shown the person wherein what you are saying is in the right. Mm-hmm. -1 if you managed to botch it up and their alignment would have wound up coming out on top, sort of thing. So you could play it as a long-term sort of thing, and you could slowly corrupt the young prince's heart, or you could, wind up showing the warlord the error of his or her ways.
Okay, cool. I want to mention our social media.
Yes.
The simulationist@gmail.com is our email address. The simulationist@gmail.com.
All one word, no underscores.
And facebook.com/the simulationist has lots of unexplored territory of commenting where you could comment on the podcast.
And we pay attention on that. We will follow up on those things.
Yep. And what else? There's a YouTube channel which allows comments, youtube.com/the simulationist.
The downside to that is you will be associated with YouTube commenters, which don't always have the best history. But that's okay. You can be the person that leads them into the light and a more glorious day.
Well, there are some people who comment badly on YouTube. Where else?
Some people. There was a time that was considered, no, you never go further beneath the screen than the information of what the poster put up.
Yeah, well, I occasionally read through YouTube comments, and there's definitely ugly stuff there. But
it used to be even worse. They've recently, was it 2 years ago, 1 year ago, they refined it, so it's a lot more, less anonymous.
Well, I'll say about our YouTube pages, there's virtually no comments, so there. if there is something that shows up that's really nasty, I'm probably more likely to see it, and if I have to delete
delete it.
So hopefully that'll stay. I mean, if we got tons and tons of listeners, I mean, that would be a different thing.
You can, I mean, in that case, we're censoring sort of thing, but in this case, it's just, one person, screaming out horrible things.
Yeah, so if that happened, I could do that. What else?
But if we get enough people screaming out horrible things, I guess that means we have to change our tone, because that's, then it's not just like a bunch of, crazy people screaming stuff. That means, it's just like we need that much more improvement.
Sure, yeah. And give us feedback. Like, if we say something that seems a little wrong, I was going to write
if I got my cons mixed up, if like Genghis Khan was the good one and Kublai Khan was like a horrible decadent, I killed just because I'm bored sort of thing. I want to know I messed that up, man. I want to keep my cons straight.
Okay, yeah. And yeah, if you think that Ryan's a monster for supporting those dictators, you can...
A benevolent dictator is efficient and motivated in most cases. Okay. That's my perspective.
Also, if you found the show...
Rarely happens, though.
If you found the show on Stitcher or iTunes, they both have features for reviews or thumbs up or pluses or stars, and you can leave some of those there. And what else? I think that's it. Oh, you can follow me on Twitter. I need to get back into tweeting a little more.
That's okay.
At Spaceboot1 is my Spaceboot number 1. Spaceboot number 1 is my not space the space, but the word space.
Space is in the vast area. Boot is in the footwear, and 1 is in the numeral.
Yeah. You can find me on Twitter there and tweet at me and tweet at me to tweet more. I guess that's the way to do it.
Force tweet them.
If you want to find more podcasts like ours, I guess there's nothing obviously quite like the Simulationist.
For better or worse, we're the only ones.
There are other podcasts at rpgpodcast.com, and you can find there's a lot of them now
that tickle your fancy. Shop around, give a listen.
And another social media, I guess this part is going a little long, but Reddit has a podcast forum, and I post this podcast up on there. Whenever this podcast goes up, I post it in the daily episodes. Like, there's one every day that for whoever.
I've been trying to get into Reddit, doing some reading here and there.
But yeah, it would help a lot if somebody, just what are we asking? Just discuss the Simulationist and other podcasts on the reddit.com/r/podcasts subreddit. And that would help us out a lot. And anytime you're at a forum or something, when you have a chance, if you heard something on here that you wanted to...
If you think it applies, link it, man.
And
don't be so shy.
I think that's about all I have to... if you have if you know anybody in real life who would like to listen to the podcast, we would be ever so grateful if you introduce new people, and they would be happy too, because you'd be doing them a favor, you'd be doing us a favor.
Call it a Christmas present for us. Give us an early Christmas present.
Yeah, exactly. Your present is your soul. No.
Only if freely given.
Your ear, but not like detached ears or anything like that.
Anyway. We're not like going for Van Gogh audiences here, man. Both of us wear glasses. We know the importance of having, ears.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Although, mind you, if you have only one bad eye, a monocle's mighty classy. I'm just going to put that out there.
So final thoughts on finding your courage? I
think courage shouldn't be a trait someone always has.
Okay.
I think it should be something that is gained when the situation, and all the forces align properly. Mm-hmm. If you always have courage, it's not courage. Then it's either foolhardy, bloodthirsty, or general ennui for life, where you're not even caring about what happens.
Yeah, and that sort of character is interesting, but they're kind of stupid.
Or at least just bloodthirsty, foolhardy, or flat. Sometimes it doesn't come over. Courage is something that you gain from the circumstances. You realize if you don't do it, it's worse than if you do. Even if the bad stuff is, the potential is like humiliation or even hurt or death. But if I don't do it, I'll have to live with myself on this whole thing, and that's worse than dying trying to change it. And that's courage should be something you gain for just momentary inspirations and all that. So they do have something like that, in getting inspiration in 5th edition. So I think it would be interesting to see a nice thing like gaining courage from a situation. Congratulations, you have courage. You now get, one, advantageous reroll sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Per, whatever scenario or whatever combat thing you enter, because you're motivated. You've got the courage in you now. Rah!
Okay. Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, just give it a think, like what it would be like to be full of courage all the time, and how crazy that would be versus what gives you courage. Why do you do this? Why do you go there? Why do these people protest? Why are these people, arguing this and that? Everyone who does something did it because they had the courage enough to act upon their belief. And so that might be something just to think about, like just watching all these people, even the bad drivers on the road. They had enough courage to change lanes without even using their turn signal. Misplaced courage in this case, but it's courage all the same, technically.
Yeah.
So just watch the world and see how courage is the force that changes things. That's deep, man. It's like a yin or a yang. I can never remember which one is the active force.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yang?
Either.
I think it might be yang. Yin seems passive.
I don't know.
If yin was all that active, it would have had a G at the end like yang does. Yang fought for that extra letter. Yeah. That's how I'm going to remember it now, even if I'm wrong.
Yeah, okay.
Because I've got the courage to believe that.
I just remembered I was going to bring up, we're a little over time, but we'll see how I can go. Do you want to?
Go for it. Yeah, let's see what we can do.
Okay, so speaking of courage, one of the things that I wanted to do this past summer, so it's a few months ago now, was I had this plan to do some street DMing, which I invented. I believe I invented. I don't think anyone else has ever done street DMing, but the idea is to dress up in sort of a semi-colorful costume and stand on a street corner complete with the legal city busker's license. And set up a DM screen like on the ground by my feet, and just have a couple of dice behind there. Probably not roll dice, but just for the look of it. So be a person standing, and then sort of just start talking, probably start
Who
talking
has the
to no one.
courage to come up here and face the horrors of the 5 dungeon cave?
Yeah, that sort of thing, and just see, this is something downtown, so people are used to sort of stopping and seeing, attractions and stuff.
And figure it this way: even if it doesn't work out to your basic ideals, at least you're perceived better off than those people that keep bugging up and asking other people to sign petitions for this or that, or I need you to sign up for this, timeshare this, or I want you to sign up for this plan here. Because there are people who do that. They have the licenses for it, but they're not well liked. So no matter how bad it goes for you, you're still better perceived than those people.
Well, I don't have a problem with those people either necessarily.
I do when they try and stop me for 5 minutes at a time as they explain something that I really have no interest in.
Yeah.
Or can support financially.
Well, I think, if you're downtown, you're dealing with that world of distractions and, do I want to see this? Do I want to see that? And basically, I mean, yes, it is technically busking, so there's the donation box out there, just the same way as a guitar person would have a guitar box out there. But it's not an obligation. People can just, play D&D for free, basically, with a street dungeon master. So
small little dungeon, small little fun.
I think I've explained this on the podcast before, but the reason that I'm bringing it up now is because I actually didn't have the courage to actually go out and do it this summer. So I am hoping that maybe I figure out what it is that I need to find.
Where's the source of the courage going to come from for you?
How am I going to? Because I've tried a few different ways of thinking. Well, in some ways, I feel like it's my duty to make the world a better place this way.
Or at least a more entertaining place.
Yeah.
Better is always a weird term.
Make people happier. Well, I like better because it's literally it's very simple. It's just straightforward. It's just the world will be happier. People will enjoy what I bring.
In that case, work it the other way. If you don't go out again next summer, the world won't be a better place because of it.
Yeah. So, those are the sort of what I've been trying to jam into my own head to get myself motivated to get out there. But
get enough courage to do it.
Yeah, it's funny because at the same time, I'm very complacent. my other option is to stay home and just, read or play a video
Minecraft.
game. Yeah, exactly. So, so I'm trying to push myself in that direction, try to see if I know, acting silly and making funny voices and making up stories is not especially heroic, but at the same time, it is a little bit like it takes something to get out. Yeah.
So maybe that should be something for everyone to think about this week, is what did they not do that they wanted to do, that had the idea to do? Where was the courage then? What did they lack to get them out and doing it? So maybe that's the parting thought this week, is just think about the one thing you didn't do, and ask, where was your courage?
Well, okay.
What would it have taken?
Can we spin it? Yeah, can we make it more of a positive takeaway? Like,
what would you have needed to have garnered that courage to go do that thing? And ask that person out, to go tell that person off.
Actually, yeah, and to add to that, I don't want our listeners just to think about it, because that's, sure.
That's the first step.
I guess that's the first step. But I really would like to hear if people do have sort of stories, or just tell us what stopped you, or what blockage there was,
or what suddenly came up that did give you the courage to go do that crazy thing.
Because I'm actually curious about these motivations in real people's lives and how they affect us.
Well, you hear a lot of stories where it's like, and then I don't even know what propelled me onto it, but I went up there and I asked her out, and next thing you know, we've been going out for 4 years, and I'm giving her a ring next week. And that's how the story ends, because I'm nice and poetic that way.
Yeah, so thesimulationist@gmail.com is where you can write us, and I think that's really the end of the podcast. And do you have any more thoughts?
No, I kind of like that. It's just something for everyone else out there to think about a little bit. Is cool. Where did the courage come from, and where was it when it was missing?
Yeah. All right.
What gives you the courage? Because that way you learn more about yourself. You know more about yourself. You can do more in the world. That's deep thoughts, deep, powerful thoughts that change a world for the better, hopefully.
Oh, yeah. I hope so, too. Yeah. Good.
Right. So you take care out there.
I've been Josh Levin.
I've been Ryan Kirkby.
Send money.